How would the law of Elden Ring diverge if Godwyn never died? In the original timeline, Ranni steals the Rune of Death and has assassins kill Godwyn in the night. To be completely honest, this never really sat right with me. I mean, Godwyn is described as quite a powerful demigod. He was groomed to take over the mantle of Elden Lord and fought Fortress Axon 1. Are you telling me this is the same character that gets destroyed by a bunch of assassins? Like, really, Miyazaki? We need better writing than that. Anyways, in this timeline, Godwyn actually defends himself from the assassins and manages to capture one of them. Following a lengthy interrogation, he eventually figures out that his sister's the one that's behind this whole thing. Ranni, his half-sister, has done this to him. Godwyn takes this information straight to Marika, and let me tell you, it blows this thing wide open. Suddenly, it's the Golden Order versus everybody else. And by everybody else, I mean Ranni, Rennala, the whole gang, okay? Ranni bails to Liurnia, rounding up her dream team. First, she goes to Radagon. He's loyal to his sister, but you can tell he's not too thrilled about going against Godfrey. The guy's basically worshipped him since childhood. Then there's Rykard, practically rubbing his hands together at the idea of taking a swing at the Order. And Rennala's still pretty salty about Radagon ditching her, so she gives Ranni a safe place to stay. Meanwhile, Godwyn's putting together his own squad. Morgott steps up as Leyndell's wall. He tries to track down Mohg, but surprise surprise, the Lord of Blood has vanished. He calls north to Miquella and Malenia. Miquella stays neutral, because of course he does. And Malenia, well, she's not here for any kind of politics. She sticks with her brother no matter what. Years go by and there's constant back and forth. Little fights on the fringes, assassins making the occasional mess, and both sides flexing just enough to remind the other that they're still dangerous. But no one's stupid enough to pull the trigger on a full-blown war. Everyone knows that if this thing truly kicks off, the lands between were going to burn, and people were going to die. Many years pass and the Cold War is at a boiling point. Both sides are weary and frustrated. But Ranni hadn't had her full of plotting assassinations yet, because she recovers the blade used to attempt to take Godwyn's life, and this time she has a new target, Queen Marika. Although, Ranni isn't dumb, and she knows that getting to Marika won't be an easy task, but somehow she manages it. This time though, she takes matters into her own hands. Ranni, Blythe, E.G. and Celivis sneak into Leyndell and ambush Marika. Marika, too shocked to respond, gets a jumping of a lifetime and her immortal soul is snuffed out. This one moment kicks things up to 100. Godwyn finds his mother's body in a chamber, and he loses it. In his rage, he blames the Elden Lord Radagon. Believing that an Elden Lord should watch over their queen, he engages Radagon in a grief-fueled battle. But he notices Radagon isn't quite at the level of strength he's usually at. He defeats Radagon and becomes the new Elden Lord. But he knows he'd need someone by his side. He needed a Godfrey to his Marika. His options are quite limited though, so he turns to his twin siblings, begging either one to become his partner. I know, it's kinda gross. Malenia outright refuses, knowing that she belongs on the battlefield. Miquella is clearly not happy with the loss of his mother and agrees to take on the role with Godwyn as his consort. Although, deep down, he does this in order to fulfill his own ambitions, and with Malenia by his side, he believes he can do anything. Miquella isn't a fool though. He knows that the Elden Ring is connected to the Greater World, and by becoming its vessel, he's directly under the thumb of the Greater World. Seeking freedom for all of the demigods, he decides the best route is to destroy it. But Godwyn is a firm believer of the Golden Order and disapproves. But because of this, Miquella explains that destroying the Elden Ring is actually a good thing, and that each major player for the Golden Order can hold shards of the Elden Ring, vastly increasing the power of the Golden Order. Godwyn agrees to this manipulation, and together they shatter the Elden Ring. They distribute shards of the Elden Ring amongst members of the Golden Order and its allies. Ranni catches wind of this and begins campaigns to retrieve shards for her faction of the war. Eventually, the shards are spread throughout the lands between, and so begins the war between the demigods, the Shattering. The war stretches on for many years, but there are some notable battles, like Radagon versus Malenia in the fields of Caelid, Morgott's siege of Liurnia, Rykard's volcanic crusade, and Godwyn's campaign into the Weeping Peninsula. These are all massive battles, and everybody comes out worse for it. But the Greater World is watching, and is concocting its own plan of revenge. But before that can happen though, Miquella grows tired of the war, and decides that he needs to put an end to it. You see, Miquella has an incredible Empyrean power, the ability to charm, soothe, and twist even the most stubborn hearts without them even realizing it. Quietly and invisibly, he works both sides. Hatred fades just enough for reason to slip in. Distrust turns into cautious conversation. And by the end of it, a truce is born. Godwyn rules Leyndell with Miquella at his side, and Ranni keeps Liurnia free from the Golden Order's laws. And they agree, if the stars or any greater power threatens the realm, they'll stand together. It's fragile, paper thin at best, but with Miquella's influence holding it together, it actually lasts. But the Greater War is just about harder with Miquella, and it calls in outside help. From beyond the lands between, a champion is summoned, a tarnished. Through the two fingers, the Greater Wall spins its story. The lands between are broken, the ring lies in pieces, and you must unite it. Claim the great runes and restore the one true order. It's convincing, righteous, and noble. And like all the best lies, it's only half true. Because the Tarnished isn't here to save the lands between, they're here to tear it apart and everything that stands in the Greater Wall's way. And the Tarnished does not play games. No speeches, no politics, just straight up hit list. Rykard's first. The so-called Lord of Blasphemy gets eaten by his own ambition, dying in the molten pits of the Volcano Manor. Then comes Radagon, the Star Scourge himself, finally brought down under the very stars he freed for Ranni. The man who could hold back the heavens, face first in the dirt. Morgoth tries to be the hero, standing on the steps of Leyndell, throwing everything he's got at the Tarnished, and he still ends up a corpse like the rest. The truce? Yeah, it's hanging on a thread by now. Every death is another crack. Then Malenia wakes up, the most feared warrior in the lands between, to protect her brother. Scarlet Rot floods the battlefield, and the blades move like lightning, and somehow, the Tarnished still wins. With Malenia gone, Mikola's dreams of cutting the Greater Wall strings is dead too. He bails, vanishing into the shadow, and leaves the rest of the world for the Tarnished to tear apart. Only Ranni and Godwyn are left standing, and at this point the writing's on the wall. They both know exactly what the Tarnished is. Not a hero, not a liberator, just a Greater Wall's hitman in shiny armor. So for once, the two bitter enemies fight side by side. It's a clash of gods, sorcery tearing through the sky, golden light smashing against the earth, and still, it's not enough. The Tarnished cuts them down, one after the other, and the war is over. The great runes are gathered, the Elden Ring is whole again. The Tarnished takes the throne as Elden Lord, and the Golden Order is restored. But this isn't the same order. It's tighter, colder, bound in chains you can't see. And somewhere in the endless void between the lands, the Greater Wall smiles. And that, my friends, is our little dive into what if Godwyn lived. Obviously none of this is canon. Every single twist, alliance and betrayal, all of that was cooked up by me for fun. So before someone in the comments starts quoting item descriptions at me, I know, okay, I know. If you did enjoy this alternate take on Elden Ring story though, hit the like button because it really does help the channel out. And if you want any more Elden Ring what if scenarios, subscribe to me so that you don't miss the next one. And who knows, maybe with the next one we mess with Malenia's fate.